So recently, I was working out, and as one does, I was looking for something to distract myself from my heavy breathing. And I came across the movie Black Swan, made in 2010, rated R, under the category of horror and mystery, which at the time I was ignorant and blissfully unaware I'm a hardcore comedy fan, and I personally prefer to watch cartoons as a way to shelter myself as much as possible from the harsh reality that is my existence. I knew of the movie being a drama when it first came out, but being around the age of 15, with literally the attention span of a damn goldfish, I quickly forgotten about it. That is until now. I'm not really one to watch a psychological thriller. If I do watch a horror movie, it's gonna be that. I don't really do gore or serial killer, super, I don't do those ones, but I will do a psychological thriller because I'm sensitive, and when I watch those types of movies, I tend to not forget about them, and they have a lasting impression on my psyche. I have nightmares. It messes with my mind, honestly, and that effect will last for months, to the point where I even start questioning my existence. Am I even real? Or am I in a psych ward, drawing on the walls, believing I'm filming a video to entertain the figments of my imagination? The movie begins with Nina Sayers? I'm not too entirely sure. She's a young dancer that lives with her mother. Her overbearing mother, honestly. Her mother, being a former dancer herself, supports Nina in her upcoming edition of Swan Lake. After forcing the previous star, Beth, into retirement, there is an opening, which Thomas, the director, announces he's looking for a new lead dancer for the two roles of the fragile White Swan and the evil Black Swan. My naive self, thinking this was just a drama or a story about passion and sacrifices, trying to achieve their dream, was, only the half-truth. This movie shattered my perception. So, Nina auditions for the role, but fails to embody the Odile, the part of the Black Swan. Nina later asks Thomas to reconsider her, but he then forcibly kisses her. This is when I realized I didn't fully understand the movie I signed up for. This paints Thomas as a womanizer in the film, and does lots of questionable things without consent. And honestly, I'm not really one to watch those movies either. I don't want to see that. But unfortunately, by this time, I was hooked in watching this movie. She then pushes him away. She didn't give any indication to him that she had any of those types of feelings towards him. And then later in the film, she ends up getting a lead role. I understand he's trying to play mind games with her, but I still don't understand the effect or the reason, because he did this with everybody in the film. It was always mentioned that he was involved with many women in the film, so Nina wasn't anything special to him. Either way, that's his character. So after attending a gala and celebrating the new season with Nina as the star role, there's a point in the film where Beth, the one who retired from her previous star role, Nina and Beth have an unpleasant exchange between one another. Beth, understandably, being forced into retirement due to her age, with the upcoming star taking her place, would have anyone feeling jealous and, quite honestly, vindictive. But this exchange ultimately leaves Nina very uneasy and quite sad. The next day, Nina learns that Beth had been hit by a car, leading Nina and Thomas in believing she attempted unaliving herself due to the fact that she had been replaced by someone younger. Nina then visits an unconscious Beth in the hospital and learns of her critically damaged legs, which results in Beth not being able to perform any longer, which has a lasting effect on Nina. Thomas then later introduces a new contender, Lily. So Nina is unsure about this new character, Lily, but eventually Lily asks out Nina for drinks. Even though Nina isn't thrilled, she reluctantly agrees, and after having dinner together and a couple drinks, Lily introduces Nina to ecstasy. Throughout this point in the film, they begin to have more drinks, flirt with men, and it's believed that at this point, Nina hasn't experienced this in her life. So it's all brand new to her, and she's very overwhelmed. And then later in the film, Lily and Nina go back to Nina's place. And mind you, Nina still lives with her mother. And this, I wasn't expecting. So going into this film, I was expecting more of like a Kim Kardashian type of movie, or 90 Day Fiancé type thing, just kind of like drama and like like jealousy. Like, I knew it was about someone who was very passionate about something, but I didn't realize the heavy tones that this movie had. So at this point in the movie, it becomes very strong imagery of being really close to one another. I don't know how else to say it without saying like words that could get you in trouble, but lesbian style. And then the next morning, after Nina wakes up, she can't find Lily anywhere and begins to panic because she's late for her rehearsal. And in her mind, she figures that Lily had already left. After arriving to the dance studio, Nina sees Lily dancing as her role, the Black Swan, and confronts her about it, and also asks about what happened last night between them, and denies ever going home with Nina. And ultimately she confesses that she went home with one of the guys she met with at the bar. This leaves Nina stunned, quite honestly confused and angry. Nina is convinced Lily is trying to replace her. This suspicion is confirmed when Thomas makes Lily her alternate. They do discuss that it is very common for the lead roles to have alternates if something were to rise and they were not able to fulfill their role. This also is when Nina starts hallucinating a lot more and her injuries start to increase. There's one point in the film where Nina goes to the bathroom and starts peeling her skin back. Did not know that this movie had anything like that in it, and I was severely disgusted, but also I was so hooked that I couldn't stop watching it because of the roller coaster. I was like, what's real and what's not? I don't understand. I need to know what happens. On opening night, Nina berates her mother for calling the theater and telling them she's not well enough to perform. This is definitely reinforced by Nina almost and quite literally breaking her mother's fingers in the door. That scene, even though it's very tame, just like, by today's standards, but just how it was directed and edited and shot was just really unsettling. But during this altercation with her mother, she was experiencing an hallucination, which ultimately resulted in her assaulting her mother. But after Nina is told that her mother called the theater, she rushes to the theater, and after arriving quite late, she finds Lily prepared to replace her, dressed in the Swan uniform. She confronts Thomas and convinces him to allow her to take her role again, which he does agree. At the same time, this is when Nina starts to lose her grip on reality. Towards the end of the second act, she begins to hallucinate, causing the male dancer to drop her on stage. And after she performs, and she returns to her dressing room. But when she opens the door, she finds Lily preparing for the role as the Black Swan, which causes Nina to go in an uncontrollable, unfit rage. And during the confrontation, so while Lily and Nina are fighting and they're, pushing each other and shoving each other to the floor, this is when Lily turns into Nina. In the process, the two break a mirror, and while fighting with her doppelganger, the real Nina grabs a shard of glass broken from the mirror and stabs her with it, killing her. The doppelganger that she stabs transforms back into Lily, if that made any sense. Then, after she stabs her doppelganger, which turns back into Lily, Nina then hides the corpse in the bathroom of her dressing room, then leaves, which I mind you, she's shaken up, but she also looks proud of herself in a way. Either way, she returns to the stage. So during her dance, as the Black Swan part, she begins to turn into an actual winged black swan, part human, part swan. This part was particularly unsettling. Her skin, while changing into the Black Swan, resembled the skin you'd see on like a chicken wing, that like bumpy texture, and it was on her arms and with feathers and stuff growing, and it was very unpleasant to see. I don't know why, but it was just kind of disgusting. You have to watch it to understand. After she finishes this part of the routine, she runs off stage again. But before returning to her dressing room, she passionately kisses Thomas, which confused me. Maybe she was asserting her dominance with him, or maybe she was taking back her power. I'm not entirely sure, but she kisses Thomas. Throughout the movie, he does assault her, and she fights it, and then this time she goes back to him. I don't know. Anyway, so as Nina goes back to her dressing room to put back on her white swan attire, she hears a knock on the door. She's quite battered at this point, but she opens the door where she finds Lily congratulating her for her performance. Understandably, Nina is confused and still sees the mirror broken after the altercation where she stabs her. Then she goes to the bathroom where the corpse was, but when she opens the bathroom door, there's no corpse. There's no blood, there's nothing. She begins to panic and looks down and realizes she's been stabbed. She takes out the shard of glass that's in her stomach during her fight with her doppelganger, which wasn't really there. The whole fight was a hallucination, and ultimately she was fighting with herself. Nina, despite her injuries, she decides to dance, not letting anyone know what just had happened. She performs, so the performance ends with the white swan throwing herself off a cliff on the stage, where below there's a mattress that catches her. So as Nina jumps off the cliff, the theater erupts with applause. Then Thomas, Lily, and the other dancers gather around Nina to congratulate her. But then Thomas notices a dark red spot spreading on Nina's torso and realizes that it's blood and starts screaming and starts shouting for help. He asks her what had happened. She doesn't respond. All she says is, "I felt it. It was perfect." Then the screen turns to white, and then the credits roll. That's it, folks. That's how it ends. In conclusion, I was desperately unprepared for this movie, to say the least. I was just looking for something to entertain me while I was working out. Last time I worked out, I watched Scott Pilgrim Saves the World, that one funny movie from like years ago. And that was wholesome, that was fun. Those are the movies I'm into. Comedy, fun. But, yeah, I should have probably looked into movies more before I decided to watch something that ultimately leaves me in the fetal position for, a couple months. The movie touches on several mental health issues, such as obsession, perfectionism, eating disorders, and paranoid schizophrenia. Compared to other horror movies, you might be saying this movie is quite mild, which I might agree. Although this movie demonstrates the struggle that resides in all of us, trying to make something out of ourselves, trying to prove ourselves, and ultimately destroying ourselves in the process. So thanks, The Black Swan, for the numerous nightmares I had, where I turned into a dancing chicken wing with wings. Very unpleasant indeed. Well, I hope you enjoyed my review, my summary of the movie that traumatized me. And yes, I don't watch horror movies often, so when I do, it affects me a lot. So thank you for joining me on this rendition of my summary of The Black Swan. I would recommend this movie if you want to torture yourself. I would give this movie a 10 out of 10. The acting, the choreography, storytelling, the music choices were so well done. Sometimes I forgot I was watching a movie. I was so wrapped in it. I felt like I was a dancer and I was just witnessing everything unravel. It was definitely interesting, and I do not look forward to ever thinking about it ever again. It was too much. I was not prepared. I guess that's everything. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.